Now, to get insights regarding this matter, we have Professor Eleanor Bahrami-Hessari of UST College of Education joining us via Zoom. Welcome again to the program.
Thank you both. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, we would like to know your reaction to the PSA's findings that nearly 19 million, million students or junior and senior high school graduates in 2024 are not functionally literate.
Yeah, actually, it's not really that new in terms of the report because it came out already in EDCOM 2.
Uh,
So it's surprising, but at the same time, not that surprising. This has been an issue ever since, and hence the EDCOM 2 report came out on this, and it really shows how foundational skills are really important. When it comes to the education of kids, it doesn't start in high school. It actually starts in early childhood. It
right.
starts when the kids are not in school yet. So this is a really big issue that we have to deal with in the education system.
So given that this is a big issue that's been happening and you have said since at least early childhood, no? How can we address this from both the side of the home and the side of the education sector?
I think first of all, we have to educate the parents. It's important for parents to realize that the school is not fully responsible for how your kids come out. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you are the first teachers of your kids, and we cannot blame the school system for everything that's happening. Although I do understand that eventually, the school does have to take responsibility for it. But at the end of the day, if what the school does isn't supported in the home, there's no way for the kids to really
That's right.
generalize their skills. And I think that's where the issue is coming from, the functional illiteracy. If the students can't apply what they're learning in school in all other areas of their lives, then whatever they're learning in school is going to be useless for them.
Yeah,
So,
but
Prof, I'd like to, in
Go
connection
ahead.
with that now, should we then consider the effect also early on of social media, given that aside from parents, social media parang ang nagiging magulang na rin ng mga bata. For this generation, I've seen it. A lot of children have lost interest in actual classroom learning settings because they've seen it already on TikTok, they've seen it na daw on Facebook or Instagram. So how do we factor in this component ng social media?
Yeah, the TikTok university system.
Correct, that's right.
Which is very much
At saka
in trend
Google
nowadays.
University, Prof.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, how like things have changed nowadays because of social media. And I think that's one of the things that also we have to educate our families and our parents with, that there are certain regulations when it comes to exposing children to gadgets and to technology. And the Philippine Society of Pediatrics has come up with those regulations at certain number of hours for children at certain ages. And so those regulations parents should be aware of that social media, technology, the television, internet isn't there to kind of like babysit our kids.
Yeah.
At the end of it, it's still very different to have that interaction with your own child, interaction with people. Because you're right, by the end of the day, when they start going to school, it's like school becomes something that's too boring for them because they've already seen it. And so because social media and even what they see on television or on YouTube, it's very animated. And then when they come to class, it's like you have this person. And so to them, it's like boring, it's
right.
like it's not as animated as what I see on TV. So why would I be interested in it?
right.
So I think it does make a lot of sense to start there. And I think it's important. Education of parents and families is really important.
Well, ma'am, I understand your point, no, na it is important yung relationship, of course, yung responsibility first ng parents and a child support system at home. But also what we are seeing right now is these 19 million students have already graduated, no, junior and senior high school. So do you think our education system also focuses more on compliance ng grades than actual learning? Kasi pumapasa sila gumraduate sila So if a certain student na hindi nakakaintindi, bakit ko siya ipapasa?
Exactly. And I think that's also one of the biggest issue in the education system is that sometimes it's not just even compliance of like grades or passing a test. It's like you come to class, then you get the grade. Sometimes it's not even, do we even check for understanding in their assessments. Sometimes it may not be even that. And then sometimes also the problem is maybe in some situations, students are taught to take a test. And so by the time they take a test, it's like they already know the answers. You know what I mean? Or like the tests are not really higher order thinking type of tests.
Yeah.
Questions na giveaway. Yung parang very very obvious, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't really encourage students to think critically and to think for themselves. Hence, you know, they come out as functional illiterates.
Yeah, that's I'd like to ask that,
That's
no,
okay.
Prof. I'm glad you mentioned that the higher order of thinking. I remember when I was in grade school in younger days, there was a question that what are the components of a beef stew? And when I answered, I added another ingredient, tomato. My grade wasn't counted in the exam. That my mom had to contest this, saying, "Well, how could you fault him? Because that's the way he experienced his life with his grandparents. They put tomatoes in the beef stew." So the university I was in corrected that, and then they accepted my answer. So is it also the fault of the system that we are focused too much on giving kailangan ko na yung sagot, ano yung tinuro, instead of having the students' own interpretations on the matter?
Exactly. And even if you even with subjects like for example math, right? Math is like such an exact science. It's like there's only one answer
That's
basically to a solution. But if you think about it, like how many times maybe in our experiences as students, how many times were we ever asked by our teacher like how did you get to your answer?
That's
You
right.
know, like show me how you got there. Because I mean, even based on my experience coming from a very traditional education background, it's always like give me the answer period, show me the solution period. I was never really fully asked to explain how I got there.
That's right.
And so students won't fully understand the reasoning. So that's one of the things too when you think about literacy. It's not just about writing, it's not just about reading. Literacy is about how do you express yourself, how do you show your critical thinking skills, how do you express that verbally, and how do you express that in written form. And so that is where the education system is lacking. And I also think it has something to do with teacher education,
Right.
with how our teachers are trained. I do come from a teacher education background. That's basically the job that I've been doing for the longest time. And we kind of like have to update the way we teach our teachers,
Right.
our students who will be teachers, that it has
Yeah.
to be treated in such a way, the education of teachers have to be treated in such a way that these are the new things that we have to address now. This is how we teach now. We can't teach the same way we were teaching 10 years ago. Our students are so different. Our
Yeah.
clientele is so different. So we can't be teaching however we were taught even.
That's right.
So that has to change.
And I think yun nga, no, in connection to what I asked you earlier about if this education system is more focused on grade compliance, and also yung sa university compliance sa DepEd, no, na o kailangan there's a certain passing grade na mailagay ang isang university. So in essence, yung nangyayari dun sa mga estudyante para makapag-comply doon sa certain passing grade ng isang university, ipapasa na lang yung estudyante kahit hindi naman deserving yung estudyante. That really
Exactly.
happens, right? Kasi we are educators too, ma'am, no? And we can also see that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I think, where we have to really look into the whole system itself.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen here. I've taught in other countries as well, and in some situations, it does happen there too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what has to change, because again, we have to think about like what do we expect our students in terms of expectations and in terms of competencies. Where do we want our students to be? And the big issue here is the PISA, right?
Yeah.
At the end
Yeah.
of the day, you know, we always would go back to the PISA, even if it's international standards. But that's the thing, like that is what those are the expectations that we have to meet, because at the end of the day, our students should come out of the system ready for life. And when you
Right.
say ready for life, you're talking about not just job compliance, but you're talking about like how do they live their lives, and how do those skills and competencies affect the way they live, like quality of life at the end of the day.
Oo. And then also, the PSA studies is based on the 2024 graduated students. So, ibig sabihin po ba nito, can we categorically say na yung matatag curriculum and the Catch-up Fridays were not effective programs?
It's difficult to say, honestly, because with Matatag, they did a pilot last academic year. But I don't know if DepEd had come up with the results of that pilot, because when you do a pilot, you should have results,
Yeah.
right? And I haven't seen or read any results of that. And so we really don't know. Like, we really wouldn't know the full extent of the success of a curriculum until you have an entire kind of like graduated students who have graduated finishing that entire curriculum. Like, for example, with K to 12. K to 12 started in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And then yung full extent na yung nag-start talaga ng K to 12 na kindergarten. So yun yung gusto sana natin makita. But then again, prematurely, the Matatag curriculum was withheld. So for now, it's going to be something different again. And again, to see the full extent of the effectivity of a curriculum, you have to wait for a couple of years. Hindi natin masasabi na effective siya or not effective siya after
In a
just a
short span
pilot
of
or
time.
after just one school year of implementation.
Right.
All right. With that, thank you very much for your time, Professor Eleanor Bahrami-Hessari, for your insights.
Thank you again.